I had a question in there, and then you started answering it when you said 25%, because I wondered what is the optimal mix of focus for a team lead or a tech lead?
Yep.
And there's probably not one, but
There isn't one, yeah.
uh, because it's this classic problem of the skilled developer becomes takes on more non-development responsibilities, oversight. Do you have categories of things that you're balancing? Like there's the technical, the development. There's the strategic, perhaps.
Hmm.
There's the allocation of resources. Like, do you have a sense of like what? How do you balance your all of your responsibilities?
Yeah, I would say right now the balance isn't great. I basically have to adjust what I do on a week-to-week basis depending on the needs of the company, the needs of our clients, because our client is not just the dealers, it's now the carriers. Um, so I am as agile as you can basically get, because I have to change what I do. As far as kind of like buckets or categories, I would say that there is the mentoring is a big one, be that either onboarding or simply just trying to offload experience, give perspective, code review, stuff like that. That's a big chunk right now. That's, like I said, probably a strong 50%, especially because I have one of the members who transitioned from a QA to a developer, and though he's a very good developer, without the schooling background, there's a lot to teach and a lot to know and a lot to kind of figure out. And then we have various skills from junior to intermediate to strong intermediate to like senior-ish kind of level, right? So there's a wide gradient. And so for like the senior stuff, though the mentoring is not quite as nitty-gritty, low-level details to like the junior developers, you're still mentoring on high-level patterns and practices and risk mitigation. And I'm training him to be one of the roles I would like to take off my plate and put it onto his over time is that I want him to be able to be a required code reviewer. So if he puts a stamp of approval on something, I can trust him. So whatever he approves, I can approve effectively. So I don't have to look at the code, so I can do some coding. We're not there yet, but that's kind of what we're getting towards. So that's like 50%. The other, I would say there is strategic, which is working with either business units and trying to figure out stuff that we should do, the risks of that, timelines of that, which aren't like weeks, those are months or quarters out. Planning a new carrier for Q1 of next year, for example, and stuff like that. Of course, there's a lot, I would say 25% alone, depending on the week, is just handling injections in the needs of the now, stuff that carriers and dealers are asking for, client managers are asking for, small things that we can do that are big wins to the dealer, but they're not big win or not huge for us to do, but they have a big impact kind of stuff. I'm not sure what you classify that necessarily, because I don't think it's sort of strategic, but it's very low scope. Not these big ticket items like trying to design a platform, which we're also in the new carrier platform. So that's kind of more of the long-term strategic stuff. And then there's also people ops stuff, which comes and goes, which is giving, though you could say it's mentoring, I think it's a little bit different, which is reviewing what someone is and what they are, how they're doing, which can be both a personal thing and a technical thing. So that comes into play. I realize I could probably keep going. There's a bunch of categories, like a bunch of categories, and it changes on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's because as the role of tech lead, you're a developer, you're a people ops, you're probably a mentor to some degree, depending on your level. You have, depending on how much experience you have, you can be a strategic member to try to figure out the future, like designing the new carrier platform. We've been, all the tech leads have been together trying to figure out different aspects. Then you have the small time stuff, which is day-to-day features, injections from carriers, business, technical, while also handling the pendulum swings of the company. It's a lot.
So I just did the math, and that proportionally you've said how you divvy up your
Yeah.
time, and it sounds like you're divvying up your time into allotments that add up to 250%.
Effectively, and that's why I'm trying to offload as much as humanly possible, while importantly not putting stress and overloading the developers, because that will lead to just a disaster, right? So yeah, I'm trying to, though I could have just dropped it to 100% and said, it's on you guys now. Obviously, one, I don't think that's what a tech leader should do at all. But more importantly, I want them to kind of grow into these things, and I'm working for a eventual future versus sort of like saving like for a mortgage or something like that, than going to the lottery and saying, I hope you guys make it. I need to do some development right now. So my plan is to eventually get to that really nice sweet zone where everyone on my team has 1, 2, or if you're more senior, maybe 3 different kind of strong accountabilities and or roles. Everyone's code reviewing each other's. I can say, okay, if you're doing release management, which is one role and aspect that I just gave to a member of my team, and she's been doing great at it. And so as I start to offload these things and they start to work together, not to say I'm trying to work myself out of a job, but I kind of am sort of trying to in a way, because these are things that I don't think I am special at. These are things that I think anyone can learn to do and become better at over time. And so I'm just trying to put that to the team effectively. So that's to kind of work myself out of a job so I can do like the really fun stuff, you know, the really high level strategic stuff, architectural coding, new services, stuff like that. So
Working yourself out of a job, it sounds so, everybody says it or whatever,
yeah.
but you're actually talking about committing 50% of your effort to building long-term capacity.
Yes.
And that just resonates so well. Like it seems like such a cornerstone behavior to make so many other things possible.
Yeah, like beyond the people aspect, which obviously it makes them better developers, it makes them better technical people, it makes them in some aspects it's just a better person, which also adds value to the company and my team. But I think beyond that, it sort of is like interest building, where by investing in them as much as I can, that interest grows over time. And so that I guess, yeah, that's kind of the aspect I'm taking a look at it, is that very long-term approach of, sure, this is difficult now to manage, but where I see us in a year, I think it's gonna be really good and strong. So
Difficult to manage right now. This may be the crux of all of this, is that you're taking on extra effort, extra labor right now for that future.
yeah.
How do you handle that? How do you make that decision? How do you not fall into routines that just like, I just need to get this done?
There are certain times where sometimes something just needs to be done. But I will do everything in my power to make sure that someone on the team does that versus me doing it. Because we got into a situation last year without, like, this isn't about throwing blame or anything around, but it was like I had to do something because I had all the domain knowledge. I was the strongest developer. And it's like, if I didn't do the most important thing, it never got done, or whatever else. And so we got into a situation where everything defaulted to kind of me for the most part. Not necessarily everything, but the vast majority. And that basically burnt me out to the point where I basically had to say, we need a team because, like, I'm dying here, kind of thing. And so, you know, now we have a team. And so I know what the worst case scenario is, where it's like, I'm just going to handle things and I don't ever want that again. And so that's why I'm trying to offload as much as I can. I've seen like the best case scenario from years ago when I had a team where everyone was kind of equally divided, to the worst case scenario where it was like a team of 2 dealing with 2 completely separate things in domain isolation and knowledge isolation and responsibilities. And so having both sides of that, I can try to, I see where I kind of want to go with things. So.
I think I should have talked to you before we organized leads. Leads is still important, but your perspective and the way that you have to do so many things, I think, is probably. I feel like we could have just narrowed down focus and been a little bit more focused on the reality of the experience with leads.
Yeah, their expectation versus the reality of things over the past couple of years I find the separation between the two has gotten larger and larger, and now we're starting to shrink back down, I think. But I think there was a large separation of, here's kind of what we need to do as a company, here's what we need to go, here's what we need to build and whatever else like that, without really taking into, maybe not taking into account. I'm not going to necessarily say what the people above me or whatever else was thinking, because I think that can also become very sour and toxic, which I'm not trying to get into, because there was problems on the lower ground, but it was just the needs of the company didn't match the workforce below it, basically. And that's why my team right now, most of them are brand new to the company. Like I think we had a developer come from another team, and so she's been with the company for a while, but all the other developers, I think Norton joined this time last year, basically, and he's our longest term developer on the team, so 1 year. The other one's like 3 months, 6 months, 4 months, something like that. So you should get into that kind of situation, right? And so I think it kind of showed that there were problems last year with resourcing, and there is still problems today for different teams. And so I'm not even sure where I'm going with this, but it's just, we're in situations now due to mistakes and decisions of the past, kind of thing. But from what I've seen going forward, I'm hopeful. I see us going in the right direction, at least so far.
You have shared a really valuable window into the experience of development, into the experience of a tech lead. I think this is really valuable just for me personally, and I think that anybody who has the opportunity to watch this really going to benefit a lot from this. So
hopefully.
thank
I
you
hope
very
I can
much.
provide some value.